and welcome back to the podcast. So you guys loved, I had another client, Samantha, on just a couple weeks ago talking about style. And I guess you bitches love Samantha's because we have another Samantha here with us today. Although this time we're going to be talking about SEO and websites and marketing and just all the things that you guys are probably stressing the fuck out about in your business. I feel like 2024 was the year of getting exhausted by marketing. And Samantha and I have been working a lot on what her unique positions and like viewpoints are on marketing. So I feel like this is like the perfect time going into the new year to have this conversation. But Samantha, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Okay, so a lot of times when I have guests on the podcast, I never actually say like how we met. And I don't know if I ever actually like asked you how we met like completely. You kind of just like came in and shot into stuff, and now we obviously work together. But will you tell everyone like how you met me, how you got here, like just give everyone a little bit of context?
Yeah. So I kind of found you on Instagram and followed along, like watched a bunch of your reels and just like felt super activated. So I think I reached out and joined your membership pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then that quickly turned into DBM. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes and things have been kind of really progressing in a really short amount of time, which is amazing.
Yeah, honestly, it's been like so crazy. We had a call today and Samantha's like, it's been like 2 months. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Anyway, it has been really crazy. But this is what I love about Samantha's business is she actually markets against me, which is really funny. And I want to just like say that before we kind of jump into like obviously hearing more about your business and some of the things that you are just so good at that I don't even touch. Like Samantha and I are, one, personality is completely different. And two, our businesses actually kind of rival each other. Not because I don't think we have a lot of the same viewpoints, but I am really in the social media world and you really look at like long-term, more sustainable marketing practices, which is funny because now I think I'm getting into that more and more, but that's just not my bread and butter. So a lot of the times, if you would like pull up Samantha's Instagram and well, her business Instagram and then the Buy the Blazer Instagram, you'd honestly see a lot of like conflicting information. And I want to say this to any business owner listening is that is not bad because a goal of a good marketer is to get people to be bought in to our perspectives and beliefs. And I think it's very interesting that I'm like, yeah, my clients actually market against me, but that's what makes them so good. So with that being said, obviously, Samantha, a lot of what you do is visibility SEO for people who are probably just seen the word SEO in conjunctions to website. Can you like talk about what SEO is like for someone who's brand new to this? Like, what is it? Why is it important? Like, just give us the rundown of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, it's just about making your website be your hardest working team member.
Yeah.
Like putting content up there and really making it in such a way that it's what your ideal client is searching when they go on their phone, go on their computer and type things in when they're looking for something. Mm-hmm. And that really brings like you visibility. And then we take it a step further because I'm of the belief that you can get like 1 million views to your business, but it doesn't matter if it's not going to translate into anything for you. Mm-hmm. So we usually take it a step further after we get the visibility piece. How can we take your ideal clients and convert them? And we do that really through blogging and being really intentional about the type of words we use and positioning each person as the solution.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate that you talk about that. Like this is the thing that Samantha and I agree on is like views do not mean sales. So for me, I really lean in on a sales process. Now, I have a lot of people who I think are getting burnt out by marketing sale. Like they're burnt out of that process. And I think what's really cool about you, Samantha, is you're like, you can actually kind of sometimes replace part of the sales process if you have nurture. Like I focus more on like activation and like buying immediately. You're like, let's pull you out of the business more and actually nurture your audience to get them to the sale. So can you talk about that for the average person probably watching this right now that's posting on Instagram, posting on TikTok, what's missing right now in their process that's getting them more clients in a more passive way? Like what are they missing right now? Because a lot of people are literally like failing at this, I think, in their business right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. And a lot of people are really missing the evergreen content. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about social media, you post one piece of content, you have to keep pumping it out to continue getting visibility. Whereas with SEO, if you're posting on your blog, that one blog post can get you views and sales for literally years.
Yeah, 1000%. What about blogging? I guess I would be really curious about this because you guys do a lot of services. I want to just tell you right now, if you go to Samantha's Instagram, which we'll obviously be linking below, we'll talk about that at the end. There's so many different things that you guys do. But I remember the first time we talked and you said blogs, and part of me was like, do people still do that anymore? Can you talk about blog? Like, how are people using it? What's your viewpoint on blogs, like moving forward? Should every business owner right now be doing blogs?
Yeah, so I think over the years, it's really come a long way. It started out being kind of like a way for people to have like a diary on the internet, and they just kind of dumped their thoughts, and there was no real structure to it. They kind of just wrote about what they want or what they wanted. And then now it's become this really strategic thing that has all these different, you could maybe think of it like ingredients to a recipe, where all of these ingredients need to be in the blog post to make it be seen and get results.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that when I approach a blog post, I'm really first starting with keyword research and really trying to write about something that people are actually looking for, the problems that they have. So it's actually something that, will be seen.
Yeah. Do you know who, what is her name? Coco Moco. Do you know who that is on TikTok?
I actually don't.
Okay. So for anyone watching, some of you guys might like know who this is. Anyway, Coco Moco predicts trends. And she actually said this yesterday. I'm going to fucking find this blog post. I'm going to have Lexi find it. I'm going to have Lexi search for this. If you guys don't know Lexi, Lexi's my assistant. Thank God I just throw things out there in the middle of these episodes. But Coco Moco said something very interesting. She said, I think blogs are about to have a big comeback. People are actually going back into the blogging, vlogging world. If you notice that, like people want longer, like TikTok's doing longer form content and YouTube's obviously still crushing it. And I think people want depth. And so I'd be curious, do you feel like business owners who are focusing on more short form, is blogging the right way? Should it be more long form content? Like, should it be like, what things are business owners missing when it comes to like depth for their audience? Because I think that that's actually a really big gap right now.
Yeah. So I think another aspect of it that goes into really deciding which avenue is right for you is like what feels good. Like for me as an introvert, like being on videos and stories all the time never felt aligned. So that kind of encouraged me to like go the blogging route and have that be my main source of leads and whatnot. But, a lot of people out there, they like being on video. They like constantly being in connection with others. And I think, at that point, video can be a really good way. It's kind of just two different forms of long form content, and it's really what works best for you.
Yeah. I want to ask you like kind of a personal question. You're probably thinking, Ashley, don't do this to me. It's not that personal, I don't think. But I think introvert and extrovert is such an interesting thing when we come to marketing, because I hear that a lot. People are like, I don't want to be on video, or I'm scared, whatever. Is your introverted personality one of the components that makes you so passionate about more passive, maybe less invasive marketing types? Like, do you think that that's like in some weird way, like made you so passionate about this type of marketing because of like your personality and I guess lack of excitement as far as like being on social media and like showing your face?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think even going back into when I was in corporate, I think being, heard in a room or being the loudest person, I was always told, that I needed to speak up or whatnot. And sometimes for introverts, it's just hard to like express yourself and get your point across in certain situations. But when I, first started learning about blogging, I can do that really easily. And yeah, so I think 100% that was really.
That is so, I was just like thinking about that. And because one of the things I want to ask you, I want to get back to some of the technical things for business owners to think about when it comes to SEO and marketing. And like, I think we could talk about that for so long because people don't really tap into it the way that they should. In fact, I bet if you audited a lot of my business, you'd be like, Ashley, your SEO is literally in the trash. Guilty. But we also market and do things very differently. Like I'm on camera all the time. But before we go into that, I actually just want to ask you about your business a little bit. If you're willing to kind of share your experience, we've been working together for a little bit. Again, you and I are very different personalities. We market different. Our beliefs are different in some regard of like how we approach business. But talk to me about being an introvert in business. Like there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who message me and they're like, Ashley, you scare the fuck out of me. But I really appreciate you bringing on people who've talked about like things that they've struggled in business or things that have maybe been intimidating, because a lot of the times people come off in the marketing sales world as like they have it all figured out and like they just show up and literally, you know, breathe air and people buy from them. And I don't think that that's the reality. And I don't think that's my reality or your reality. Can you talk about your experience of being an introvert in business? Like, how has that impacted you? Has there been anything that's been really hard for you in business or things that you tackle on a day-to-day basis that maybe you haven't shared with us or maybe haven't shared online before?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I haven't really shared is kind of the impact that my corporate life had on starting my business.
Yeah.
I was in the corporate finance world, and it was a very like drink the Kool-Aid kind of company. And being so quiet, I was always told like, you need to speak up, or I was passed over on like promotion opportunities because they told me that I was too quiet for that role.
Wow.
And I was actually given that feedback. So coming into entrepreneurship, I think I had a little bit of self-doubt, like, am I going to be able to get my value and the transformation that I can create across to people when, you know, the writing medium is more my thing. So it's something I've really had to kind of work on and put myself in situations, even like this one, where I'm just kind of challenging myself. And, you know, I think one thing that's been really big for me is making one-on-one connections. I do a lot of coffee chats and, you know, talking to people one-on-one on Instagram or wherever it may be.
Yeah.
And just building that network and those connections has really helped. And I think over time, I've just really leaned into what I'm good at and what my specialty is. And I've gotten over the years just a little bit more confident each year in being able to talk to people about what I do.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I think in business, and this is a little bit of a pivot, but I just want to say it because there's a lot of women who listen to this podcast who are not entrepreneurs. And I still think they find value in the entrepreneurship content, but I also want to talk about your job experience because I know that there was a lot of things that led you to entrepreneurship and I want people to hear that story. I don't think people have enough balls, like literally they're, you know what's a little too small, that they don't admit. Personality is a big factor in business. And people don't say it. People don't want to say it because they don't want to you know, talk down to someone who's who's more of an introvert or anything else. But having personality sometimes can bypass your actual knowledge or experience. And I think what I have noticed, I wanted to hear your opinion on this, is in business corporate settings, it's like a make or break. But in entrepreneurship, I think you have more ability to make being an introvert or using more pathid methodologies to market and persuade people. I think you have more breathing room. So I actually think people think as an entrepreneur, being an introvert, what the fuck am I saying? Being an introvert in entrepreneurship might be a curse. I actually think it's a bigger blessing in entrepreneurship than it is in corporate. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I've never actually like said that out loud, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or want to share anything on that.
I would really agree because at least where I was working before, there was a really big emphasis on networking events and just meeting everybody and, you know, having an elevator pitch at the ready constantly. So it was like very uncomfortable all the time. But I think in entrepreneurship, you really get to, you know, create the business that you want, as corny as that may sound. Like you get to shape it around what you want and what you need to make your life fulfilling and make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I'm always one of those people. I'm just going to ask you a really random question. You know, when they always say like you can have the business you want or you can be whatever you want, like I've always said like yes to a like a point. Like there's a video where they say like you can do anything you want in life, and there's a guy in a wheelchair who's like running a race. Like, but I also think there's limitations. I don't think you can actually have everything that you want. I think like life is about sacrifice. And when I think about corporate, I think about the fact that like I couldn't have everything I wanted, but I was willing to sacrifice or learn different skills to make certain things work. Like you kind of fit a square peg in a round hole type of thing. But I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? Like, do you think you can have everything you want? I kind of say Almost, but not always. Like, I think there's always sacrifice in everything. I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that? I've never actually asked this question to literally anyone, and Samantha's like, what the fuck, Ashley? This is not about SEO. But I just want to ask you that if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it all comes in seasons. Like, for me, moving from corporate to entrepreneurship was not a good time, honestly. I was one of those people, like, I was up at 4 a.m. still working from the day before, and then watched my husband go to work, and I would like go crash on the couch for a couple hours and then get back to it. So being able to sit here now and like talk about like some aspects of freedom that I have, definitely didn't come without sacrifice. And I think everybody goes through periods of that. You know, sometimes you want to scale and sometimes you have to prioritize, you know, personal things in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it really comes in seasons.
Yeah. I've never like really said that because one of my favorite, do you like country music? I've never asked you that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know Faith Hill?
I do.
Okay. So this is random. Everyone's like, what is this episode? But I think this is just fun. Like Samantha and I, obviously, we talk like on a daily basis. So this is just like, you get to like witness a one-on-one call with us or something. But there's a song that Faith Hill has called Wild One. And she says, she's a wild one, sitting on my daddy's knee, telling me you can be anything you want to be. It's one of my favorite songs. This is so random. People are like, you listen to Faith Hill? But anyway, she has a song and she says that, like, sitting on my daddy's knee, he says you can be anything that you want to be. She keeps singing it. But anyway, and I always would think about that. And I was like, you know, young girls sitting on their dad's knee and being like, you can be anything you want. And I'm like, no, like, I will never get into Harvard and be a lawyer or a doctor. Like, I'm not gifted with book smarts. I've never been a good book smart student. I've been bad at tests. I just worked my fucking ass off and got good grades. But like, I could have never gotten into grad. And I believe that about myself. However, I know that hard work was my gift. So I was like, if I can work hard, I can make as much money as a doctor because like I'm good at sales and I have skill sets that are applicable in the real world that won't get me into a grad school, but like it can get me, you know, a $50,000 client. And yeah, I've never really thought about that. I don't think I've ever said that out loud. And I think as you're talking about this, of being an introvert and having maybe things that didn't work for your advantage in corporate, you were able to maybe optimize those or use those in your business. I just think that's like such a powerful thing for people to hear. I don't want people to say that like everything's easy. You worked really hard. So can you talk to us a little bit about corporate, anything you're willing to share? First of all, how'd you get into what you were like? What'd you go to school for? What was your background? Give everyone kind of a thing. Like, how'd you get into your corporate field of literal, it sounds like hell sometimes. Like I lived it too, but like, how'd you get into that? What was your background there?
So getting to where I am now was like a really roundabout journey. So in college, I literally had no idea what I wanted to do. I went in originally for athletic training, and then I switched to nursing, and then I went to business because I was working for an online retail company in college, and I just really liked everything about business. But my husband and I really got into, at that time, like Dave Ramsey and the FIRE movement, and that kind of sparked my interest in finance. So then I specialized my business major in finance and graduated with that. And then I got an MBA and started at a really popular investment firm. And it was honestly like my dream to work there. I had spent probably 6 months of my life dedicated to talking to all their recruiters and going to their networking events. And I finally got the job, which at the time, it was like all my dreams had come true, but that didn't really last very long. Very quickly, I learned that even though, you know, you had to have all these credentials and get all these financial certifications to have this role, it was pretty much a glorified customer service role. And while I had a lot of impact on the clients that I worked with and helping them manage their money, the company treated us like we were back in elementary school. Like I had to track my bathroom breaks every day. And there was just this one day where I was like, this isn't going to work. And I think at that point, my husband, John, and I, we started like networking with people in the FIRE space, which is financial independence, retire early for anybody who doesn't know. And they encouraged us to start blogging. So that kind of pivoted into our first business. So while I was working at this financial corporate gig, nights, weekends, all my free time was learning about digital marketing. And we were able to take that website to 75,000 views a month with SEO. And along the way, we kind of learned about email marketing and all kinds of other strategies too. And I got to a point where I was like, John, you know what? Like, I hate my job. It's not fulfilling me. I get stressed out going in every day. Like, we're young, like it's going to be now or never. So I quit with like literally nothing lined up. And my original intention was to run this first company and kind of grow it and build digital products and whatnot. And it turned into actually me freelancing and doing SEO and writing and other stuff. And then it turned into this like agency. And now I run like the agency more than the blog. So it's been a really wild journey.
That is so wild. I remember that. It's actually interesting. The only thing I really knew a lot about that story was the bathroom breaks. One of the first conversations that Samantha and I had, we were talking about marketing and positioning and your story. And she's like, can I share that I used to have to track my bathroom breaks? And I was like, hold the fucking phone. What'd you just say to me? Because I also, very similar, was in a very intense corporate job, a lot of opportunity, a lot of dream job. And I didn't have to track my bathroom breaks, but if you were not selling, you had to track literally everything that you did. And there would be days where, at 4 o'clock, I was like, I did X, Y, and Z, and they're like, that wasn't good enough. And I was like, I literally haven't even like gone to the bathroom or like eaten or breathed in basically a day. Like, get off my ass. So that is like really crazy. How long were you in that job before you were like, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore?
I quit at 1 year and 9 months.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. With the bathroom break tracking for quite some long time. That's really
yeah.
Oh my God. I also didn't know about Dave. So I'm curious, what do you think about Dave Ramsey? What are your thoughts on him? There's no right answer.
I think his intentions are good.
Yeah.
I don't think all of his strategies are optimized for the person who has, maybe like immediate level to advanced level understanding.
Yeah. I think that's really fair. I think the thing I've always told people about Dave Ramsey, because my background was financial coaching, so that was like kind of a weird thing, is he kind of talks to you in a way that's either like really advanced or like really elementary. I don't think he meets a lot of people in a place where they can really grow. I think he like appeals to a lot of people who are literally at like end's bottom, or people who are like in a lot of wealth. And I find that very interesting. But obviously he's built a very successful business, and I do think he has some principles and processes that are really applicable. So I find that I just find that interesting. I didn't know if I knew that part of your journey. The one thing that I also find very interesting about your story, Samantha, is you talk about your husband, John, a lot. How old were you when you got married?
I had just turned 22 a couple weeks before. He graduated a year before me because of all the switching I did.
Yeah.
But he was 21 turning 22 and I was 22.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So how has your relationship with him impacted your business, you going off on your own? It sounds like he was really like an advocate for you doing that. I'm just curious, like, how has your relationship been integrated into your business?
I think really having an ideal of what like our vision and why we want to be doing what we're doing has been really awesome. Like somebody there who gets it and is willing to put in the work like equally that I have. He's had nights and weekends because he still has a full-time software engineering job.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like my tech guy. So I go to him with all my like advanced questions, but he's put in so much work too. And I think to some level we've grown closer because of it. But then there's also been the aspects of like, okay, like we need to like shut work off and move into like personal time for a little bit. So sometimes there's like reflection points, but overall it's been really great.
Oh my gosh. I just think that's really cool. I have about half my clients who have really integrated partners and some not at all. It just kind of depends on stage of business. But I'm really very proud of how many amazing women I'm working with that are the CEOs of their own company, and they have supportive, incredible partners who really have, I think, taken their business farther, because sometimes you just need that like support person. I think that's why a lot of people, especially women, we need mentorship. I think women are meant for community. And I think one of the reasons I love DVM and mentorship in general is like, you need that partner, but I think you also need a group. I think you need that energy of people pouring into you consistently. So I think that that's really powerful when people can have a partner that they can really rely on, but that they also have other women who are just like, you fucking rock. Like, you got this. Like, I think we just need that. I personally need that. I think introverts are overlooked because they aren't necessarily always the first person on a call to ask a question. Yeah. But I feel like that's been like a really big thing for you, is just people that can pour into you. Because that's like took a lot of courage to walk away. Can you talk about what that looked like? Like, when did you make the decision? Was it immediate? Was it over a period of time? How do you navigate the first couple months with literally like no backup plan?
Lots of long nights. But as far as like making the decision, I think it just got to a point where I was just so unhappy in that role that I knew like I didn't really have a choice. Like, I had to make the decision, and it was something we were only a few years into our marriage. So still like getting our feet under us and whatnot. So it was definitely stressful. And to some degree, like, I felt a little bit of guilt, like putting that kind of responsibility on John to be like the main breadwinner for the moment. Yeah. But I think he was really supportive and just kind of like helped me out when I needed it. And he was that sounding board before, like, now I'm like 5 years in. Now I have a lot of connections that I've made in different like groups and masterminds and whatnot. But back then it was just me and the internet, like, into the void. So I think having him there was like really good.
I love that. I just think first of all, like, kudos to you for having the balls. I don't know another way to say it. That's not a classy way to say it. People know I'm not necessarily classy on this podcast. Not because it's like you have to be vulgar or crazy, but I honestly, there's no other way to say it. Like, you have to have balls. There's so many people who are more talented than me every day, but I'm like, they just don't have the courage to make that leap. And I walked away from probably what would have been about $500,000 at 27 years old. And like, that was really scary, but I also was like, I was meant for something bigger. So what was your vision when you started the freelancing? Was it just income? Did you want to make it into a business? Like, what was your initial vision when you were like, fucking peace out, corporate job, I'm going off on my own?
Yeah, it was definitely just trying to replace my corporate job income. Which I'm very fortunate that I was able to do pretty quickly. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what I was trying to do, because at first I just wanted the income just to be able to bring something in, because I wanted to run the blog full time. But it just made more sense as time went on. Like, I got more into running the agency, and that was more fulfilling to me. And we still have the blog to this day, and it's still, running, but I definitely spend more time on the agency. So.
Yeah. Can you talk about running an agency? So many of my clients and people that listen are like, I want to do marketing. I want to get into running an agency. And this is the thing, agencies are amazing. And for people who really want to be able to pull themselves out of your business, there's a lot of ways to scale it to do that. But your first couple of years of an agency can be a lot. So what are some of the things that you have thought have been like the best things about an agency? Maybe the most stressful things? Can you give us a little insight on your agency experience?
Oh gosh. Okay.
As much as you want to share. Oh my God, Ashley, don't expose me on the internet. But kudos. She runs a very successful agency, but they're hard. And every business is hard. You have to choose your hard. But agencies require different levels of complexity. But I think you're like where we're finding right now. But yeah, just anything you want to share on agencies for people who are like, I want to run an agency. There's so many of them.
Yeah. So I think to just like give some background. So I started out and I think I credit what success I do have to kind of leaning into the skills I had at the time when I quit my job. So that was, I had taught myself marketing and I had the finance degrees, whatever. So I really leaned into that and found kind of success in being able to kind of land clients that way. And I really do enjoy finance. So it's just kind of like scaled from there. And then I got to a point where it was the 4 a.m. nights and I couldn't take it anymore. It was like a hard, kind of like the corporate hard, but just different. So it was at that point that I realized that I needed to hire, and I brought on my first like assistant, and it just kind of kept snowballing from there. But as far as the hardest things about running an agency, I would say hiring has been my number one. It's very, I think, difficult when you're hiring contractors to kind of make them aligned with your vision and make sure that they're the right culture fit and they have, the skills that are needed to like execute what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you have any like major takeaways for anyone who's hiring right now? Like any lessons that you've learned over the last couple of years?
I think one that I've heard pretty frequently, but don't necessarily agree with is, I think it's hire slow, fire fast or something like that.
Oh yeah. I was like, I don't know what she's about to say. Watch it be something that I've said before. I also disagree with that one, but tell us why you disagree.
So I feel like I've gotten to a point where I can pretty quickly determine if somebody's going to be a good fit or not, because I've looked at so many different applications over the years. So I usually have a hunch and a gut feeling. And when I usually go against that gut feeling or, take too long, I usually regret it. So I think you can go off your gut and hire based on what you think is going to be a good fit. But when it comes to firing, I think there's a lot of nuances, and I've had a lot of tough times with this over the years, specifically with like working with, friends or family members and it not work out perfectly. So it can be really, really tough to navigate and cause like a lot of anxiety and like doubt in yourself. But at the end of the day, you really need to make the decision that's going to be best for not only you, but your clients, and making the business, sustainable for yourself.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think people just don't know how to hire. Honestly, if I've learned anything in the process, it's that a lot of people don't really understand how to make good hiring decisions. Because there's always an element of like natural just skill and then like, the technical skill. There's like all these moving pieces. So I think that's what's like really confusing for people. Also, I think that people hire quickly because they're looking for like quick band-aid fixes and they're really not looking at someone who can take over an area of their business. Because a big mistake I see for agency owners that struggle is they want to build an agency, but yet they're like in every weed of the process. And if you want to run an agency, you have to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to take a step back and let these people run departments. And so a lot of the times what I see as a big mistake for hiring is people hire for task, not for like an overarching skill or department or area of the business. And then what happens is you have a lot of people doing shit, but they don't necessarily understand the impact of the shit that they're doing. And then you have to be in the shit with them. Another way to say it. And that's like a big mistake for agencies. So I appreciate you like kind of sharing that. I know that that's always like a really big hurdle. Now going to like your agency, because I know people are probably listening being like, I wonder what the heck she does. So I do want to talk a little bit about what you do. You transitioned from blogging, you have an agency. What services now does your agency specialize in? Like, what are you guys best known for?
Yeah, we do SEO, content marketing, which is blogging, and email marketing and copywriting primarily. We come up with like the best solution for you or for whoever's listening, to really get you, like I like to say, worldwide visibility and all the sales that you could want, just based on bringing the right people to your company, whether it's your main website pages or a specific blog, just trying to bring the aligned people to you.
Yeah, for sure. So if someone was going to hire me or you, who should they hire? Just kidding. That's actually not the question. But obviously. Both. Good answer, Samantha. You passed. No, truly, I think a lot of the times business owners are sitting there saying, I need to hire a content strategist. And by the way, I hate content strategy. Like personally, I think that has become too copy and paste, not like marketing principles, but that's a whole conversation for another day. But people are like content. And all I'm hearing as a business coach is I'm fucking burnt out on content. I'm burnt out on content. I'm never home. I'm literally on Instagram 24/7. I'm on live 7 fucking hours a day. People are burnt out on content. So if someone was coming to you burnt out on content, like what do you guys do differently that will get people the results that they're looking for that isn't posting on Instagram or posting more TikToks? Like what does that actually look like?
Yeah, I think the main difference is we go at it from a way to make it passive rather than having to continuously post content to get results. Like you can post a couple blogs a month and then years later somebody finds you from that blog. So we really dive into who you want to target and what questions they're asking so we can create content based on that. And there's a lot of different SEO principles that are different than Instagram, like as far as structure and all the tech backend stuff that needs to be in place.
Yeah, I like that. What does that like look like for someone? Because I think a lot of times people think SEO is Google. Or I hear that a lot. Or I hear people say something along the lines of, well, I want results now. So how does SEO blogging, like, I know it's obviously a long-term game, but what does that look like for someone who's like, yes, I understand the long-term piece, but I also want results like quickly. What does that look like for people?
Yeah, I think a matter of it is how fast you want to go, what resources do you have to put into it? Because we could do 12 blogs a month and get you results much quicker than if we do one blog a month and see results at the 6-month mark. I think it's really, and a lot of it is also dependent upon the quality of the content too. So you'll see a lot of agencies out there that are, I like to say they're kind of like a conveyor belt. They put you into a deliverable, check it off, and then move you along. One thing that we found really important in our work is to get to know not only your goals, but who you're targeting, how you speak, because you don't want to be writing just for Google and throwing a bunch of keywords in the content. That's not going to get you anywhere, even if people do come to your website. So we need to be kind of fusing the SEO keywords and the copy into one. So when they come, they're activated by you and they like opt into a freebie or schedule a call or whatever that may look like.
Yeah. Do you feel like the way that people are going to be going with marketing in the future is going to be more passive? Like, do you feel like that's the thing that business owners should be focusing on?
I think it goes back to, I really think it depends on what method of marketing is easiest for you. Like, is it easier for you to sit down and write a blog post, or is it easier for you to post a reel? Like, I know for me, I sit there and re-record things like a million times when I post content. So for me, it's easier to write and that can kind of just flow. And I also think it depends upon, based on that, are you burnt out by, posting videos? Like you could try merging the two strategies together, or you could lean into one. But I definitely see people feeling burnt out and wanting more passive. And that's something that I've really experienced with not only the blog at How to Fire My, financial independence blog, but also in my agency, is that I'll be, even just this past weekend, I was watching Slack notifications of people booking calls with me based on a certain blog post that they found. So I think it can go both ways, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's the reason I was so excited about this episode, I'm like, it's such an interesting topic because I don't talk about it a lot. I think I talk about repurposing and making marketing easier, but we aren't really on Pinterest yet, which, there's a lot of SEO kind of integration there. We don't do blogs. There's so many things. And one of the things that's really shifted for me as a business owner this year is I'm like, we're at, multiple 7 figures. Can we get to 7 or 8 without me having to do more work? Can I do it without hiring a team member to push out content? What does that process look like? And I think there's a point of which every business owner has to be able to say, I'm in this, so I need to start thinking 1 or 2 years in advance along with what's happening this month. And that, I think, is what keeps business owners in a position of really ownership and control in their business. Is everyone thinks control is, I can go post a piece of content and do that, make a sale. But also, if they're out of their business for a day or a week or a month, they can't survive. So there has to be a balance of immediate impact and long-term impact. And you as a business owner have to have that moment inside of you where you say, I'm ready to look at this business long term and not just think about how I'm going to be able to hit a 20K month so I can post about it, or whatever the instant gratification thing that's enticing us to focus on literally what's in a week or two in front of us right now. That's what I think separates the powerhouses versus the people who, you know, have a really good 1 or 2 years and then basically they burn their entire business to the ground. So I just think this entire conversation is so important. Do you have any tips for anyone? They're sitting and listening to this podcast. They're like, me, you're speaking to me. I'm burnt out. I want to scale my business. I'm looking at this long term. I'm ready to invest in things that will bring in revenue now, but also will set me up so I can in 6 months when my next baby's here, or I want to take a month off to go to wherever, that my business is still running without me. Are there any tips or tricks that you have that you want to share with anyone that they should be considering or thinking about if that's what position they're in?
Yeah, I have kind of a spicy one that I tell all my clients. So I've seen a lot of people repurpose their Instagram captions or their emails to their blog. And that's a big no-no. Like never do that because they aren't optimized for SEO or Google. And it's actually going to hurt you in the long run more than it helps you, because basically Google looks at your website as a whole every certain amount of time. And if it finds like any page on your website isn't valuable, or, you know, it's keyword stuffed or whatever it may be, it decreases your rankings. So that's a big one that I would focus on. And then, so going along with that, quality over quantity. So if you can only write one really comprehensive blog post a month rather than weekly, do that, because one quality SEO optimized blog post is going to be better than 4, half-assed ones.
I like that. I think with marketing, you can get away with a little bit more half-assed content. Like you can do a little bit more of the volume game. For you, I actually think it's very different. And I think that's why people traditionally scaled with marketing, like traditional content strategies, really fail to do the SEO thing on their own. It's interesting. Yeah. A little tip for everyone who's listening and they're like, okay, like this is something I'm wanting. Okay, Samantha, if someone wants to find you because they're listening, they're like, I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted, I'm ready for more intentional passive strategies in my marketing process. I want to see what that looks like, or I just want to pick your brain, see kind of how I can start to take some of the things we talked about and implement it in their business. Where can they find you? Where can people connect with you?
My website, of course. So that's
my website. My website. Google me and you'll find me.
Yeah, that's at sjdigitalsolutions.com. And then I'm on all the typical social media platforms at sjdigitalsolutions too.
I love it. Samantha, thank you so much. I know you were in like a very busy season of your business. This girl works harder than anyone I know. We'll be like talking and she's like, yeah, I'll like work on that. And like 20 minutes later, she's like, here's it all built out. And she's only like 18 pages or something. Like, holy fucking shit. Anyway, Samantha worked very, very hard. So I was very happy that she was able to give up a little bit of time to be on the podcast. But thank you, Samantha. This was so much fun. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.